Neuter you accept or life is hard.
It's so hard.
It's a hard life.
And it's getting harder.
This is how it's going to go. Just going to sing every line. Yeah, a little sweaty under there.
Bald hair. You show.
Bobby's got that hot hat sweat.
He's a hot man, dude.
Bobby's been riding hard down there.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
You've held that song down and just twisted it beneath your strong hands, haven't you? You've cornered it. And it's like, here I come, song. I'm gonna get you.
I mean, Bobby knows how to wrestle a song, man. Like them Cajuns
It's
do
like
down
an
there in
alligator.
Louisiana. I was going to say, like Cajuns wrestle them alligators.
Are you from Louisiana?
No.
I didn't think
No,
so.
Alabama.
You're from Alabama?
Has this started yet?
No,
We're live. We're hot.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
go right
you're
into it.
missing a lot right here.
Oh, we're getting it all.
Okay.
How is the traffic in Alabama? Because the traffic here, Bobby,
Like you still live there.
is awful. Well,
I know.
I was
It's
just wondering. He
terrible.
goes back home, I'm sure.
Oh, I do.
I go back home.
My dad, he's just turned 90 years young.
Wow.
And he's still down there, and he's mowing his lawn and planting tomato plants. So I try to go down once a month. And,
That's good to hear because I know he's been
Dude, that's awesome.
He had a
going
hard-
through a lot of health stuff.
Oh, he had a hard year last year, man. I mean, I tell you, I learned about the power of the mind from him last year because he went through. I don't even want to get into it because I know this isn't the most positive. Well, actually, it is positive to overcome it.
Yeah.
But he went through like a light heart attack, had never had heart issues, a bowel obstruction, AFib, UTI, pneumonia at that age. And, the doctor says done, and then you're going through all the mental stuff and trying to
Preparing for the worst.
And then he's fine. He gets
So now he's just gardening like no other.
Yeah, he breaks out of rehab, actually.
Maybe.
And they called two neighbors. Well, if you don't come get me, I'm going to call, someone else. And
He's just wanting to try new things. That's all.
it.
He wanted to try all the diseases, all the ailments.
Yeah.
He's a warrior. He's a warrior.
I went down this weekend, actually, and he's got hedges, in the front yard, the backyard, the side, and the way he is, he wants to do everything in one day. And I'm like, well, I'm going to help with this.
Yeah.
And then we're doing this hedge, and all of a sudden, this rattlesnake.
No.
Oh, yeah, about to strike.
In the hedges?
Oh, yeah, in the hedge on a fence. And here
I didn't know there were rattlesnakes in Alabama.
There's rattlesnakes everywhere, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you.
It's like gout. Gout is everywhere.
I
would poo my pants.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to get away, and I didn't want to just throw a stick.
Your
or hit
dad
him.
or the rattlesnake?
No, the rattlesnake.
Okay.
So anyway, I got
Don't get away, Dad. I've been waiting on this moment.
I got the clippers, and I just in a lock where he wasn't going to go anywhere, and I took this picture.
Oh.
Dude.
No.
And this picture is this rattlesnake with the mouth wide open, angry.
It is.
And I did zoom in a little. I wasn't that close.
Yeah.
But
You weren't trying to get all National Geographic on it?
It's a Jack
No.
Hanna over here.
Yeah.
Not Marlon Brando. What was it? Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom?
Marlon Perkins.
Marlon Perkins. Yeah. See?
No. See, I like the Steve Irwin approach. You just get in there. Crikey, I pissed him off.
I've been down in his butthole.
Now, what you want to do is
butthole?
stick your
No.
thumb in his butthole.
Yeah.
Man.
Crikey, he's got me in a death row.
My buddy Brad is from Australia, lives in Vegas. Very successful businessman, and he's like Steve Irwin was a national treasure. Knew him. He's like he's just the best dude ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a sweetheart of a guy.
His kid's like totally following in his footsteps.
Yeah, man, that whole family just seems nice. They have to cut people up or something.
You can't be that nice.
You cannot be that nice and not have heads in your freezer.
I have to say, I really love going into a podcast on this subject. I mean, this is different. It isn't the typical, well, how did you get started?
That shit's boring.
We'll get to the
Alligators,
boring stuff.
rattlesnakes, and...
Well, we intertwine our questions with just absolute ignorance. That way, everybody
I'm
stays
the
entertained.
guy.
Yeah. So back to Steve Irwin. I loved it. When I first moved to town, I would smoke these things,
Natural cigarettes?
natural cigarettes.
Yeah.
And, you would just sit and watch Crocodile Hunter eating cornflakes with Karo syrup on it. It's just what you did. But it was great.
Yeah.
So your
awesome.
dad was cutting hedges, and you and your dad cutting hedges after he got out of rehab?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he mowed the lawn, like I said.
Yeah.
Planting tomatoes. I'm like, oh, man. And
Is he still down in Luverne?
Luverne.
Oh.
Yeah, if you're going to Panama City or Destin, that's one of the routes. you go
I used to go right through there.
There's a restaurant called the Chicken Shack, and everyone you can imagine has been in there to eat.
Dude, I've been through that place 100 times.
Did you get a speeding ticket?
No.
Good.
No, we obeyed the back roads in Alabama there. Well, I am a black man.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of those little towns, Luverne.
You got to cut that out of
I'm
this.
not.
There's a lot of little towns, Luverne, Brantley, Opp, and Opp is actually that's where the Rattlesnake Rodeo is held every year.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a Rattlesnake Rodeo.
Do you not drive to Destin and go you get off in get off in Montgomery?
There's two ways.
Well, I haven't driven there since the airport opened
You
in
drive
Panama
65
City.
south to Montgomery, and then you get off and you go these back roads until you get to Niceville.
Right.
And
I remember
Destin.
Niceville.
Yeah.
Rattlesnake
It's been a
Rodeo,
while.
they bring big acts every year. I mean, they've had everyone from Blake Shelton.
Are there actual rattlesnakes in the rattlesnake rodeo?
Yeah. Oh, no, they have cages full, and they'll take... It's sponsored by the JCs.
What do those JCs do?
What is a JC?
Rattlesnakes.
What do they
What's
do?
a JC?
It's like the Lions Club. It's like
one
an
of those
organization that does things, but you don't know really what they do.
But I think they do really good things.
Yeah,
You think? We're not sure, but supposedly.
It's like the
allegedly.
Shriners. They have those little hats.
Yeah.
They drive those cars around in the festivals, and it weirds me out. They're like little clowns.
Yeah, but the JCs, they actually, when you're a guest of the rodeo, they'll have you, stand up here at the gate for a picture, and the next thing you know, you feel something on your back.
No.
And it's the biggest, the longest rattlesnake.
Stop it.
And one of the JCs is holding the head, the other the tail. And I'm like, man.
Not cool.
Those
Yeah.
JCs are wacky.
Do they do anything with the rattlesnakes in the rattlesnake rodeo?
They milk them.
Oh, they have. I started to say a horse race, a snake race.
A snake race.
They have snake.
Yes. Yes, I want to see. Let's go to the rattlesnake rodeo.
And they sell rattlesnake. They sell rattlesnake meat. Mitchell Tenpenny, he just played it. It was this weekend, past weekend. He and Aaron
Dude,
Tippin were there.
We need to do this next year. That is a trip. We'll just go to Destin or something and write songs.
We have to.
But we'll drive.
Yeah.
And we'll go through Opp.
And there's thousands of people that attend this. I mean, they have.
I'm sure.
I don't care if I'm the only one there. I want to see all this shit.
They call it the Rattling Country Concert.
Oh,
Look at that.
That's just set right up there for him, wasn't it? Wow.
I know.
Did you grow up doing music around there?
When I was 5, I started kind of playing a guitar. Not well, of course, but
Nobody did at 5, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe Vince Gill.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
yeah, and then had a make-believe radio station in my little bedroom when I was 9.
Yeah.
And would give the weather forecast and all that stuff.
So you learned to talk like the man on 6 o'clock news.
Exactly,
Yeah,
like the Don Williams.
Like the Don
song.
Williams.
And then at age 11, I became a disc jockey at my hometown station.
At 11?
At 11. And my mom would pick me up after school and drive me down to the station. And
How did you get that gig?
At 11?
well, again, we're talking a small town market, and they probably needed someone cheap.
Oh, let's get this 11-year-old.
But no, the
He'll
truth
work
is,
for free.
It was.
I hadn't even found my wiener at 11 yet.
I doubt
was
that.
actually owned by the guy. His name was Joe Rex Sport. He was the superintendent of education there. And my dad and I were at a Western Auto. I don't know if you remember what Western Auto stores were.
Western
Do
Auto.
you
We
know
had
what
one.
Western Auto?
I don't.
It was a store. They had everything.
Yeah.
It was long before Walmart, and it wasn't as big as Walmart, but every little downtown, there were several here. There was even in the 90s.
Yeah.
But they had everything. They had a record rack, they called it, with all the latest records. They had bicycles, record players, washing machines. But anyway, my dad and I were there one Saturday morning, and Mr. Sport was there, and he had known him for years. And he says, "Can Bobby come down to that radio station this afternoon? He's just ate up with the radio." And he said, "Well, yeah, my son Tom's going to be here. Tell him to come on down. Y'all bring him down this afternoon." And he literally had me cue up a record, and I remember what it was. It was a song called Montana Song by Hank Williams Jr., and I queued it up and announced it, and then I hung out for a while and learned the equipment, and then it wasn't long till I was the afternoon and Saturday disc jockey.
So you spoke on air and everything.
Oh, yeah. I've got tapes, interviews.
How have we not heard this?
I don't know.
I need to hear this.
So that record was Hank Williams Jr.?
Yeah, a song.
Gosh, he must have been really young then.
That.
I mean, if you're 11, I mean, how much older is he than you?
Oh, he's a good 17 years.
Okay.
Because he started when he was like 8.
I don't know how old he is.
But
is this
this was an old, from before the Mountain Fall record.
I got you.
This was an older record.
The Mountain Fall, before the face.
Right, exactly.
For the injury.
The face.
Yeah, when he missed his face up, man.
Yeah, I know.
He mushed his face up. He fell off the mountain. Yeah.
Oh, brain was exposed.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, I queued it up, and then I started working, and then there was a Billboard magazine resource book is what they called it. And I opened it up one afternoon, and I'm like, Johnny Cash Enterprises, Tammy Wynette Enterprises, Hank Williams Jr.'s office. And I just started calling. And it's crazy to think about this, but...
You did this at 11 too?
No, this was about 14.
14.
Oh, you've been 3 years into your
your group, Alabama,
filling out the whole radio industry. Okay.
Yeah, and I just started making calls, and I said, I'd love to do an interview with, Tammy Wynette, Miss Wynette. And, okay, let's see, 2 weeks on Wednesday, 2:00, call this office number, and she'll give you 10 minutes. And, we weren't a reporting station.
Dude, the music industry was so much more accessible back then.
Accessible, that's the word. Because now
there's no
and
chance
you can't
in hell.
blame them because who has
people like
time?
you ruined it for everybody now, Bobby. I'm just serious.
No, but in a way, but no, seriously, there's only so much time in a day, and it's hard to believe really that they would make time for a little AM radio station.
Yeah,
but back then they did. Most of the people did.
Saved them some travel, I'm sure.
Yeah. And they
didn't have the internet. I guess you needed as much exposure as you could get.
They were driving around in their Cadillac, with the whole band, and the crew was all in one Cadillac. From what I understand,
that's right. Well, the Loretta Lynn movie, Coal Miner's Daughter. I mean, she literally went for anywhere they saw a radio tower, they stopped.
Wow.
And I remember the group Alabama. They came through. On that first independent record, My Home's in Alabama, they came by the station and left it.
Wow.
And
it's awesome.
A lot of people did. But you're right, accessible.
Yes.
I mean, back then, I would go to a concert and I just walk up to the security. I didn't even have a badge. And I said,
he looks fine, let him in.
I work for WLVN Radio, in Luverne, Alabama. Well, is David Allen Coe? I mean, can I get a liner from him? Well, hold on a minute, And I mean, it really, most of the time, was like that. Now, the group, people like Alabama or Hank Jr. at that point, you had to just get a pass, and hopefully you would get to meet them. And sometimes they would have a meet and greet, even back then, a press conference, actually. Yeah. But a lot of those guys, if they were just hanging by the bus, oh, come on. And they didn't, I could have been some crazy teenager that,
I think you were.
Well, I
teenager.
was, actually.
Yeah. That still kills me. 11 years old.
But can you imagine though people doing that now? I can't imagine.
There's no way.
Doing that. Well, you wouldn't.
No, there's too many gatekeepers and handlers and security camera
That's
footage.
True.
Yeah.
I came off the stage. We were playing with McGraw. Literally. It was when there was in the middle of the arena, the stage, there was like a cross in the middle, had juts out, and then the band was in the middle right there. And I played right there, got my guitar on, sweating, tour managers with me, and Chad. And I walk off the stage, and the backstage, to get backstage, is right there. So I come off the stage, and Chad goes through, and my tour manager goes through, and the dude stops me. Goes, I need to see your pass. And I'm like, bro. And finally he looked at me, he was like, oh, shit, sorry, and let me go. But to your point.
Did you say you had your guitar in hand too?
I had my guitar. I was sweating. I had a towel around my head. I literally walked from the steps off the stage to go.
That's wild.
It was unreal. He's like, for some reason.
You deserved it.
I did deserve it.
Yeah.
I probably did. But you can't get anywhere these days.
Oh, no.
There's no way.
No.
When I was in high school, remember when they had dancing in the district downtown?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, being
Love
from Texas
that.
originally, there was a band called Bowling Pursuit that was from that area, the Wichita Falls area, and they were playing in Nashville, and I was a fan of theirs, and I wanted to go see them. And I'm not even like this at all, but I was like, man, I want to go meet those guys so bad. So I just kind of went side stage and went up the steps because it was down there on the riverfront, and I just talked to the security guy, and I was like, hey, man, I would love to get back and meet the band. And the guy was like, you need to talk to the manager. The manager came over. Hey, man, I'd love to meet the band. I'm from Texas. Big fan of these guys. And they're like, okay. They let me backstage, and I got to meet the whole band. And the band's like, oh, hey, man. At that time, they were just kind of starting to take take off. But they were just like, oh, you're from Texas. How cool is it? Yeah.
But that wouldn't happen either.
No,
today.
it would not happen today.
No, you can't even go down. I can't even go downtown anymore.
You can't even get a parking.
I mean, but I was like you. I was
Can't afford it.
a junior or senior in high school. I mean, I wasn't even in college yet.
There's just something great about that mindset of where you just don't think there's limits or boundaries.
Yeah, right.
know?
I think that's
Well, like moving to Nashville to be in this business. You know?
When
Yeah.
did you do that? When did you move here?
Well,
Did you go straight from disc jockey BLK 107.5 or to?
That's good.
Thank you. Did you go straight from that to did you figure out you wanted to write songs, or did you
I had started writing songs early on, and then I was in an
when you were 4?
No, teenager, and I was in an FFA string band.
Oh,
Wow! Played, and we did stuff like Marshall Tucker and Waylon Jennings and Leonard Skinner and Hank Jr. And we won state and went to the national convention in Kansas City, and I'm like, oh man. And I never really wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
I enjoyed singing and playing, but it was not like an obsession. It was writing for me. So anyway, after graduation, I was going to go to Troy State University. I skipped out, didn't do it, and came up here. Actually, you know what? My dad brought me up here, and we drove down these one-way, the one-way streets, 17th, 16th, and 18th. And then even though I had interviewed a lot of people and had kind of got to know a couple of people in the business, it just really hit me. I thought, man, I just chickened out. I don't think I can do this. I mean, I don't even know how to get in the door of one of these buildings. I mean, I remember this just like yesterday. A sad feeling. When I got here, I remember we took Demumbrian, and where the tin roof is now,
Yeah.
George Jones had a store, Mel Tillis, Hank Jr.'s museum, Waylon Jennings, Loretta Lynn, the group Alabama. There was an Ernest Tubb record shop there.
So Demumbrian back then, what year was this?
This would have been 85.
So mid 80s, Demumbrian is what Broadway is now, with all the artists naming all the buildings.
But it wasn't bars. It was like
Right, but
gift
it was like their
shops.
own. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
it was
Exactly.
still like that when I moved here. It was still like it had a
Shoney's.
wax museum.
Yes, and Shoney's was across the street.
Shoney's was there.
We stopped, and I thought, oh, my gosh, it was like the land of Oz. Waylon Jennings, And so we stopped at that Shoney's to eat, and as we were walking in,
That's awesome.
Minnie Pearl, the old country comedian from
No
the Grand
way.
Rapids, was walking out with her husband and held the door for us.
Wow.
Wow.
And Lacey J. Dalton, an artist that had a big hit called 16th Avenue.
Yeah.
She was smoking right outside. And I'm like, man, I've got to be
I
here.
love it.
I've got to be here.
But then 4 days later, I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. I just don't know that I can do this. So I went back and then ended up going to a radio station in Andalusia, Alabama. It was a much bigger station.
Been there, too.
100,000 watt station. And how it got to be a 100,000 watt station in a town no bigger than that, I don't know. But we did. We reached to Panama City. So I continued to do interviews and thought, well, I'm just going to not do the writing thing. And then all of a sudden, there's this guy came in and was going to fill in for 4 months, and his name was Billy Henderson, and he had written songs for people like Jerry Reed and T.G. Shepherd and the group Alabama, and he was taking a few months off from Fame Studios Publishing in Muscle Shoals and taking care of his mom and dad who were going through some health issues.
Yeah.
So he was on work there, and he was my mentor.
Wow.
I said, can I show you some things? And I would pitch him song ideas, and then if he liked them, he would work on them. And then he went back to Muscle Shoals and demoed a song of mine. And then I'm like, man. And he told me, he came back and he says, I'm going to road manage this new band. I don't know what they're going to do, but he said, I live in an apartment with 2 of the guys. We have 3 rooms. The drummer, Mike McGuire, is going to stay at the apartment. I'm going to road manage. And then the guy, lead singer, Marty Rabin, is moving out and just got married. And it was Shenandoah.
Awesome.
Wow.
And I moved in, and I'm like, at $69 a month for the rent, split 3 ways.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I got a gig working at the radio station in Muscle Shoals, and I was there when songs like The Church on Cumberland Road, I checked the mail and got the cassette when it was pitched. A Ghost in This House.
Oh.
And I don't know that I would have ever made it in Nashville if I hadn't have spent the time in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
I really don't, because there at the time were great writers like Walt Aldridge, who had written hits for Reba and eventually Travis Tritt. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
A guy, Robert Byrne. You had Shenandoah.
Oh, good Lord.
Robert Byrne had
dude.
numerous hits for Earl Thomas Connolly. Had a hit on Mindy McCready and several other people.
Chad and Lori actually bought his house at the corner of Franklin Road and Harding Place. Right up there.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
I've
Sure
got
did.
chills because I wrote songs in that house.
Yeah. They bought his house right after he passed.
Really?
Sure did. I mean, the house is not there anymore. They took it down and built on top of it. But
well, I had
I've been in that house before.
Wow. Well, I had access to those writers, and they spent time with me, you know, and they would spend time with anybody. It was like, you know, and all that Muscle Shoals history, you know, from the R&B world of Aretha Franklin, and then people like Mac Davis, and then a lot of country people through the years recorded there, and they were still recording there. So anyway, I learned a lot. That was my college.
It's a good place to learn, man.
That was my college. And then
It's probably a lot better college than Troy would have been.
Football team's probably better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But no, at that point, I started writing down there and met this guy who was a loan officer at a bank. His name's Stephen Dell Jones.
No way.
And, yeah, he was a loan officer.
Wow.
And I met him on my very second day in Muscle Shoals at a Quincy's food bar. Do you remember those steakhouses, Quincy's?
Yes.
Well,
Dude, that is so wild.
I met him the second day, and then he called me at the radio station, and he said, and he wrote for Fame Publishing, and he said, you want to come over for pizza? You know, my family Saturday night. And I went over, and then, God, we would get together and dream and write songs and just dream of coming to Nashville. And then there was a guy down there that I wrote a few songs with, and he left Muscle Shoals, called me one day, and he says, man, I'm an intern at Mel Tillis' publishing company, and he heard some of these songs, and he wants to demo and record them. And I said, well, man, I'd love to come up and to the session. And I came up, and Mel was like, you know, people that don't know, Mel was just an amazing songwriter. He won Entertainer of the Year, Pam Tillis' dad, but he was a huge star.
Yeah, he was.
And just passed away a few years ago.
Yep.
But he he stuttered, and he was like, would you like a deal too? And I'm like, a deal?
Would you like a deal too? You
I
get a
honestly
deal?
didn't
You get a
know-
deal? Everybody gets a deal.
I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, well, what kind of deal? Because I thought you had to have huge success before you could even get in a door here.
Right.
And he says, a publishing deal. And I said, I said, well, yeah, I live in Muscle Shoals, and I work at a radio station, $100 a week. And then I said, well, yeah. But he said, if you really want to, you know, if you really want this, you need to be here in a week. And I
shit.
went back to, and luckily a guy that worked for his company says, well, I have a house, and it's right behind this building on the corner on 18th Avenue. Like, here's the NSAI.
Yeah.
And then there's that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That 2-story house. The guy owned that house, and he says,
right
well,
over there.
It's right there.
That's right. It's still here. One of the few things that is. And he said $300 a month. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
So you get $100 to live on?
Well,
Dude, I love how back in the day, the people were like, we'll pay you X amount of dollars a week.
We'll give you
Instead of
75 cents a
Oh,
week.
I know.
We'll pay you this much
No
a month
more.
or a year.
Right.
It's like, we'll give you $50 a week.
oh, and
Right.
I did ask Mel that week. I called, and I said, man, is there any way to get $150? I'm not even going to repeat what he said. And he says,
you should.
well, they only gave me $50 when I came here. And I thought, yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Come on, Mel, get off the wallet.
I came up here, man. I'll never forget moving into that house on a Saturday, and I had so much, like, I literally got sick. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to pull this off.
Yeah.
I ended up in bed sick for about 24 hours. And I got a gig at the Opryland Hotel as a banquet setup guy.
Really?
And I went through 3 days of training. And on the second day, one of the guys in training, no, not in training, but one of the guys that worked there was like carrying this big glass to put on a table with two other people, dropped the glass, and they all got cut right in front of our eyes. I'm like, I can't do this.
Wow.
So anyway, when they hired me, they gave me 2 weeks off every year. So I called in every day, called out every day. Like day one, I'm calling out, I'm sick today, number 3, and I was trying to get another gig. And I ended up, I'd only done radio.
Yeah.
And I ended up at a Kroger grocery store.
It's like radio.
And the pay. Sorry. Back then, for
Sorry,
starters.
Kroger. We
no,
love
actually,
you.
it's better now. But I was paid minimum wage, man, and I'd write during the day. And
Which Kroger were you working at?
They put me. I went to the hiring center, and they put me at the Belle Meade Kroger.
Okay.
Oh, the Belle Meade Kroger.
Yeah, the Belle Meade Kroger. And these
Kroger.
ladies would be like, "That's eggs in there. Don't mash that's my beef. Don't mash it." And then, you know what, though? Boy, the people that would come through those lines, Patty Loveless, Conway Twitty, Crystal Gale. I mean, I could just, Brooks and Dunn.
Isn't it amazing to how many people you see in this town? Because country people don't really care. No. You could walk out here and see Tim McGraw walking down the street.
Right.
You could walk out here and see Reba walking down the street, Brooks and Dunn, whatever it is. I almost ran over LB Shane just a little bit ago coming down here. Just standing out in the street. LB, you look like an idiot standing in the street.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't realize how many, like going to Longhorn back in the day when we'd go to Longhorn, Porter Wagner would be in there. You know,
Right.
it doesn't, anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
That was the Music Row cafeteria.
That's really
it was
true.
so good.
But yeah, all these people would come through. Diamond Rio would come through, a couple of those guys, and we got robbed. I remember I had been here about 8 months, and one night I was at the, what do you call it? Not the self. It was, the lane where you could only bring 8 items.
Oh, the Express.
Anyway, I was standing there, and in walked these 2 guys with ski masks and guns.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, no. And luckily, the manager had just left the safe open, and one of them punched the other one and pointed, and they jumped, and I ran, and I just could feel that bullet going in. I mean, I ran as fast as I could, and I jumped off the loading dock, and I went to a payphone up there by that old Belle Meade cafeteria. And I called, and man, I was terrified. I was so scared. And they caught the guy.
Oh,
really?
And I had to go to court, and their attorney said, what have these 2 guys done to you? I'm like, you know what? Absolutely nothing. It's normal to be at work and 2 guys come in with a ski mask and point a gun. And I said, it scared me to death, and now I have mental issues working every day.
I love it.
Good body.
So that was the welcome to Nashville.
Yeah. That was your first publishing deal.
Yeah, I was with Mel 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was a great time because he was he had a big theater in Branson at that point. He was doing, shows 6 days a week. But he would fly in here and would be here on Monday and want to hear everybody's new songs.
Huh.
And he would just say, get Waylon on the phone, to the secretary. And they would get on the phone. They'd find it.
So different.
And people like Glenn Campbell and Roger Miller would come by and sit in the pitch room. And George Jones, his wife, had an office. Now Curb owns that building. It's on 16th, the building we were in forever.
I think Mike Curb basically owns everything in Nashville.
Yeah.
But then that building was Scott Hendricks, and Faith Hill was running around at that time. He was cutting her first record, and Brooks and Dunn. Brooks and Dunn. I remember hearing Boot Scoot and Boogie. Scott asked us to come upstairs, and he played it. And,
Did Scott produce that?
yeah.
Jeez.
I didn't know Hendrix produced that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And and George Jones was there all the time when they weren't on the road. It was the most bizarre thing to walk in. There's George Jones. I just want to go home and see Gunsmoke, Nancy. And,
You're George Jones.
and it was really, it was a true, I don't think I realized how special it was, honestly. I mean, I knew it was cool, but I didn't.
Looking back, you're like, oh, that was a special moment.
When I go into that building now, I just can see so many of these people. And there's an old booking agent, Joe Taylor, there, and he booked like Porter and Little Jimmy Dickens. And so you could walk in that building, and there would be Alan Jackson's accountant was upstairs. So Alan would be in the building, Little Jimmy Dickens, George Jones, and it was just...
That's wild to think.
It really is wild.
I'm very jealous of those days right there.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I wish I could go back and really...
Well, that's just, it brings back the word accessible again. Those guys were so accessible. I guess because nobody had cell phones. There was no emails. So
no TMZ. It was just...
You had to be more present around each other than you do now.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I was with Mel for 4 years, and one Monday morning he came in and he says, I know there's rumors about me shutting the publishing company down, but now I am keeping it going. You know, I'm building. Yeah, it's taking a lot of money for this theater in Branson, but I'm not letting go of this publishing company. And I thought, ooh, relief.
Yeah.
The next Monday, I drive in and there's a moving truck out.
Oh, my gosh.
And I walk in and he's like, well, I'm having to shut it down. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. And thank God. You know, there was a guy, Clay Myers. I had a single out, my first single on Linda Davis, who was on Arista. And Clay Myers ran the publishing company over at Reba's company, Starstruck. Mm-hmm. And I got an appointment over there, and he signed me for 1 year.
Kept you afloat?
Yeah. And then he left and went into management, and the new people that came in were kind of letting all those people go. And, you know, it's just what happens sometimes. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember driving down and then a guy named Jimmy Metz, who had been a song plugger at Mel Tillis, he was working at Curb, and he called me in and signed me up, and that was in 1995.
Have you been here that long?
Yeah.
Wow. That's like...
Dude, you're 29 years.
That's unreal.
Oh, my gosh. And I remember it. I remember you like right when you came on board. Your year was when?
2005.
2005.
19 years, baby.
Wow.
I mean,
golly. Four.
Listen, when I signed here, you know, I mean, Mike has done some, of course, amazing things, but in publishing, he definitely owned a lot of great publishing. But far as an active songwriter roster in Nashville, you know, it was just so new and not being taken serious at all. And and this is terrible to say, but I'm just being honest. When I signed, I thought, well, I mean, I really need this check, but I don't know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Mike.
No.
It was just,
it was brand new.
It was brand new. Yeah. And you didn't know. And then, man, thank goodness, you know, in about... you know, in 3 or 4 years, cuts started happening. I remember Joe Diffie cut a song out of this catalog called A Night to Remember.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long till Kiss This, Aaron Tippin, and then I had One More Day. And
let's not just skip right over one of the greatest songs, in my opinion, it's ever been written. It's one of those songs.
One of the most iconic songs in country music history.
You're very kind, both of you.
I tell you, before I knew you,
we're just spitting facts, Bob.
Well, it is probably the most perfectly written song that I've ever heard.
Which you wrote with
There's no holes
Stephen
in
Dale Jones.
That I hung out with in muscle shows. Which, honestly, that made it one of the most beautiful things about that.
Full circle moment there.
Is because all of our dreaming, and we would get so frustrated at
How
times.
many years went by from when you met Steve till One More Day happened?
That's a great question. It would have been 12 years, almost 12 years.
Wow.
Now, we did have the Linda Davis song together.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we had other cuts together.
Yeah.
We had a Shelley Wright single, and I forget. We had, you know, in later years, Kenny Rogers and a bunch of other people. But no, but thank you for saying that. It was just, you know, you hear people say, well, I just held the pen or whatever. But it was during a time just going through a lot, man, and had lost a lot of people in my life, and it was getting into the holiday season, and just was so emotional. Just had this kind of breakdown. Was not trying to write a song. Wasn't planning to write a song, and in tears, I'm sitting there crying. And that verse, I mean, it's like it came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I better record this.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the work tape because I'm like just slobbering all over the place. And the next day, I write with Stephen Dale Jones, and I said, man, listen to this and see what you think. And the funny part about this, he was writing for a company called Island Bound.
Yeah.
And Chris Lacey, who's the head of Warner now, was plugging songs for them.
Yeah.
And she
burned the building down.
Burned the building down, left the candle burning, and the building burnt down.
You know this?
I remember hearing this, but I completely forgot about it.
But let me tell you something.
Single-handedly burned down Island Bound music.
One More Day would not have been the same if it hadn't have been for that building burning down, and I'll tell you why.
I can't wait.
They moved into a company right up the street here. I think it's Jody Jones on the building, that little light yellowish building on 17th Avenue.
Yeah.
There is an old upright piano that belonged to Roger Nichols. And I've never met Roger, but he wrote a bunch of hits back in the day. Yeah. And so Steve and I are in this dilapidated room, this old upright piano, and I play him that verse. And he says, I'm not a piano player. And there was no piano at Island Bound. But he said, I've had this one little piece of a melody for years. And I think it'll work. Wow. One more day. One more. And that's all he had. Then we wrote the rest on guitar. But that's where the beginning of that chorus came from.
That's really cool.
So if it wasn't for that piano.
How about that?
It's all a miracle.
I've known you for 19 years, and this is the first time I've ever heard that story. That's really cool. Yeah.
Wow. And it's one of those things that song was meant for, I think, one band. I think it was meant for Diamond Rio.
Man, those guys sang the crap.
They really did.
The production, the way Marty sang it, and
the
harmonies, and the mandolin, and the lyrics, and everything. It's like the perfect red velvet cake.
Well, they did an amazing job.
Unreal, man.
The funny thing about that, when we wrote it, it was put on hold. I don't know if you remember. This was before you got here.
This was before me, yeah.
But the Clark Family Experience.
Remember those guys?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like 15 people in the group.
Yeah.
They're all family.
Yeah.
They put it on hold. And I thought, nothing against the Clark family. But I just thought, man, I'd like to get with someone established at this point.
Sure.
Especially back then.
How about no?
How about a no?
And then Mark Wills and Diamond Rio put it on hold the same day.
Wow.
And for some reason, I was a sound engineer for Bill Anderson. And I was out at the Opry with him doing sound one night, and Diamond Rio were there. And Dana, the bass player, was standing outside a dressing room, and I says, man, I'd had a couple of cuts on them before, and I said, I hear you guys have our song One More Day on hold. He says, yeah, we're going in next week. Now we're going to go in with it. I don't know if we'll come out, with it, doing it. And I said, well, man, I hope you do. I said, because Mark Wills has it on hold.
Look
too. And
at
he's
you.
Like, he says, Mark Wills.
Oh.
I said, well, nothing against, I said, and again, nothing against Mark either. He cuts.
Look at Bobby playing the game.
He cuts some great records, but
look at you manipulator, you.
But I didn't even realize what I was doing. Honestly,
okay.
I don't think I did.
Okay, Bobby.
No,
whatever.
I just said, well, I really hope you guys
Can't play a player.
I said, I really hope you guys do it because your harmonies.
Yeah.
I just would love to hear that Gene Johnson high harmony.
Oh, good luck.
Bobby. I didn't know what I was doing, but I sold it so well.
Honestly, Mark probably would have done a fine job with it.
He cut great records.
Yeah.
Still sings great.
Yeah.
But
no, it ended up where it was supposed to.
Exactly.
Sure.
And who knows if Mark would have done it? I mean, he may not have even heard it. I mean, who knows?
Probably would have just been an album cut.
The record company put it on hold. But, it almost didn't happen for Diamond Rio.
Really?
It was at a time when Arista and BMG, they had combined, and Joe Galante took over the Arista artist, too. Mm-hmm. And Diamond Rio had cut this album, and it was called Stuff, the name of the album.
Stuff.
And they released the single, and Stuff stiffed. Nothing against, I keep saying nothing against, but nothing against the song, but it just did.
Bobby just doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
I know. It died in the 30s, and they were thinking about just scratching the album. And then there was a meeting in Los Angeles, and Joe Galante was playing new songs from artists, and he played, I guess, 2 or 3 songs off this project of Diamond Rio. And not much response, I was told.
Yeah.
But then some lady there And I would give anything to know who this lady was. No one's been able to tell me. She wrote on a little piece of paper, "Play One More Day," and passed it along to Joe, and he played it.
Wow.
And everyone stood up and gave it a little standing ovation.
Wow.
And then Joe says, "That's the next single."
Wow. Dude, you got angels, man.
The amount of stuff that had to, which I'm sure that's just about any successful song, the amount of things that had to come together.
I hope not that much.
But you had to shake off the Clark family experience. You had to shake off Mark Wills.
Then maybe the album getting still, you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
see, that's what's really cool is like.
And the voice of one woman.
Yeah.
You take Play One More Day.
You take songs going number one for granted, like, and I'm sure every song has its own unique story, and I know several, but this is the first, again, I've ever heard about this. Yeah. And so it's like, it just makes it even more, that much more special when you hear, like, man, this song almost didn't happen, and you wrote this song with this guy you met 12 years ago, and you almost didn't even move to Nashville because, you know, and just, and it's all coming together, and then by the luck of that lady passing a note, you know, Glani hears it and gets chosen as the next single, and wow, you know, and then you got to fight the whole radio thing, but man, it's such a miracle, getting a song cut, then even huger miracle just going number one, you know.
You know what I'm laughing at? And then we got sued.
Did you?
Why'd you get sued?
So one day,
One more day.
little ignorant Bobby goes to the post office, has this note to go pick up a package.
Yeah.
And I'm being informed that we're being sued
Oh, you got served.
for One More Day stealing the song. And I've never talked about this in an interview, but after all your
Twangtown exclusive.
Yeah,
You
I'm
heard it here
telling you
first.
this because of all the other hurdles.
Yeah.
So you finally get a hit.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's like 80-something years old, down in, like, I think it was Florida.
Of course,
He
it
had
was
written
Florida.
a song, and they sent the song to me called One More Time. And I swear to you, it was like, one more time I will hold you. One more time I will kiss you. One more. God. And do you know that guy wouldn't go away?
Wow.
And we finally got rid of him.
Oh, what'd you do? Did you go down to Florida and feed him to the Gators?
No,
The Alabama Mafia got him.
it was like,
Rattlesnakes.
man.
The Rattlesnake Mafia.
But we literally had to go through a whole process with that. And luckily, I mean, yeah, anybody could tell there was no similarity at all, other than it had one
and more.
One mentioned, I forgot it. He had exactly how many times one was mentioned, and it was the same as his song.
my God.
And he didn't just sue us. He sued Diamond Rio. He sued BMI. He sued
BMI?
He sued he sued the. That's what was so funny about it.
They're looking.
He
You
sued.
see BMI's face. They're like, "What in the?"
He sued the record company. He sued the manager. He sued, and it was a joke. They were like, "Well, if you're not being sued, you're nobody in Nashville."
Yeah.
I mean, it really was a running
Sued the
joke.
YMCA, Green Hills Mall.
I'm suing the whole entire city of Nashville.
I'm pretty sure he sued my foot.
It was crazy. No, it was.
Wow.
I'm like, man. I'm like, really?
Wow.
You didn't have to pay him off, did you?
Yeah.
God dang it!
But now it's not that easy these days. Anyone that gets any ideas listening, it really isn't. But back then, there were
dick.
several of those cases. But now I forget all the new laws and all. And it's not as easy for people to do that.
So when did One More Day come out? Was that?
It was right at the end of 2000.
Yeah.
Going into 2000, and it lasted till like 2002 between the AC charts and.
It got a big resurgence when 9/11 happened. Because I remember that became one of the big like songs they used, to like honor everybody who had passed in that event. So I remember like seeing that song synced up with videos from 9/11 and stuff like that, and
also Dale Earnhardt's death.
Yeah.
They actually did a special
that's right.
version of the song. And
forgot about that.
That's the one thing, even to this day, even over the weekend, I met a guy who walked up and said, I just used that song for my son's funeral. And that's the part
Bob.
you don't enjoy. I mean, I don't.
Well, it's nice that your song's bringing solace to, families that are hurting, but man.
Yeah, but to hear those stories, and I appreciate them sharing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I don't want them. If I wrote it, I wouldn't want them to. I don't want to be sad. You got to quit. You got to not do that to me. Don't come up. If I have a number one and the song is like that and it's giving you hope, don't tell me. Please.
He just means it.
I just don't. I don't want to. Wow. What do you got going on right now that you're very excited about? Is there somebody you're writing with besides me?
We've written some good songs.
We have written some good songs.
You recorded one
I recorded one of them. Life ain't gonna suck today.
There you go.
It's just...
it's positive.
Yeah, it's a positive. It's like, you know what? I've been in some shit. I'm tired of the shit. Going to wash the shit off, and I'm going to go fishing, basically.
You know, I can honestly say this. I'm having as much fun now, and that's a strong statement with all the hurdles that we have in the music business. But I finally have just let go of a lot of the... there's just so, like you said, I try to look at it like when I came here and try to believe that anything really is possible, which it is. Yeah. It is. And try not to put all these little, what do you call them, blockades or roadblocks in my mind.
Yeah.
And just really just try to be true to myself. And I feel like after the pandemic, I've become a different writer. I think I feel like for once, I'm just a really true songwriter. I'm true to myself. I, lost my mom back in 2020, and it's been a hard time for everybody. I mean, number one, going through that time, but also I lost about 32 people that, whether it was family, close friends, young, old, and it almost just really tore me to pieces. And then I finally I've been blessed to just have the faith and the strength and help from a lot of wonderful people, and I'm just really enjoying writing more than I have in years. I mean, maybe more than ever.
That's wonderful, dude.
And I'm proud about a lot of songs that's just been cut recently, and just I mean, like today I just wrote with some guy, Levi Bowman. His mother is one of the Isaacs, and
cool.
Young kid, and just has dreams too, even though he was raised in a music family. And I love writing with, doesn't matter, I write with Whispering Bill Anderson, and he's been doing it since 1959.
Yeah.
But I love writing whether it's a teenager or somebody like Bill, and it's just still fun to have that blank. I started to say blank sheet of paper, but that blank
blank computer screen
on your phone.
You are the people that gave you a chance. You're that person now. Mm-hmm. And what you just said,
paying it forward big time.
Yeah, you're completely paying it forward. You are the nicest person I think I've ever met in my life.
Oh, come on.
I love that about Bobby, because he really is the nicest
you all
guy.
Can tell, he is.
Oh, I try to be, and it ain't an act. I'm just
that's what I'm saying.
Being
you
sincere.
are the nicest person that I've ever met.
Well, that's
in
a
my
big
life.
thing. I mean, I appreciate you saying that.
Dude.
But you know what I
really
love about nice Bobby is that Bobby has a wild side.
Oh, right? Does he?
When I first met Bobby, back in 2005, Bobby was on a warpath.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to reference some things here, Bobby, and I want you to talk about these things.
Okay, sure.
So one of my most favorite things about working at Curb was that I got introduced to the Waffle House song.
Oh boy,
Lee Bryce.
Yeah,
and I was
Bobby and Lee used to be big running buddies when Lee first started.
I love him.
Yeah.
I still love him, and saw him not long ago, and we had the greatest visit. And
tell us about the Waffle House song, Bobby.
I was in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, at the Alabama Music Hall of Fame. They were having a big concert. Merle Haggard. And Lee calls and says, "What are you up to?" It was a Friday afternoon. I said, "I'm in Muscle Shoals. Merle Haggard's playing." And he says, "How far is that?" I said, 2 hours. And he drove down. And,
of course he did.
And I'll never forget, Merle Haggard, we stood on the stage, and the radio station let us, and this was before he had a record out.
Yeah.
Stand on the stage and watch him from behind. And as he was going off the stage, and Lee still tells this story. I heard him tell it not long ago. Merle was walking, but not talking to anyone, but just stopped. And Lee had on a John Deere cap. And Merle stopped right there, and he looked at the cap and smiled and shook his hand.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was after the show is when the when the problems started.
Festivities.
Yeah, there's a guy at the radio station says, "Hey, meet old Jake over here. He has a limo, man. He'll take you out in the country to this great place. You'll never find it." And Lee,
You'll never find it.
Lee and I are like, "Yeah, man, sure."
That sounds like the beginning of a really bad movie.
That sounds like something Lee Rice would get involved in.
The next thing I know, it's probably 1:30 in the morning, and I remember shooting pool, and then the ball goes way up in the air, and Lee's like, it got crazy, and then somehow we ended up at Waffle House at 4:00 in the morning and started singing the menu, and I call a guy named Portis Tanner who worked here.
Yeah,
and
Bobby
I'm
called
like,
the office phone and left a voicemail.
Yeah, and we're singing. Lee and I are singing the menu, and they still have that here.
I still have it.
Still have a copy of it.
It's amazing.
I know I've heard that.
Yeah,
I know I've heard this.
That was wow! What a crazy time.
So
I'm glad I survived. Not that night, but I mean some of the other times
because
I did.
Yeah.
I went through a period like I think most everyone does, where I was just hitting it hard, and I
used to call Bobby Tequila Tomberlin.
Oh, the great.
I still do, but I don't think you're hitting the tequila like you used to.
No, Andrew Dorff, who passed away just a few years ago, great songwriter who had hits on Blake Shelton and Kenny Chesney. I remember being, again, in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, did this show for this
radio. You at Muscle Shoals, man.
I know. For this radio station, and I just remember, man, that was a big wake-up call, that trip. I was like, man.
We get those from time to time.
This 16-shot thing isn't good,
16 shots.
Because I never was, I've never really had a problem by any means, but I went through, like everybody, you go through a lot of hard times. Next thing you know, man, you're out, and I couldn't stop at one or two. If I ever was given a shot or two, next thing you know, it
full
is
throttle.
10. It was 15.
Let's go.
And then you wake up one day and realize, people die from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you didn't.
Oh, and like I said, this isn't like something that happened all the time, but boy, when it did,
it was legendary.
It was
when it happened.
Yeah,
it happened.
So when you weren't frequenting Muscle Shoals or Nashville, you had a few stints out in Hollywood.
Yeah, I ended up on this crazy. Well, it's not crazy, but it was crazy for me. I mean, this TV show, the CMT show, The Singing Bee. I ended up in the band, and it was like it went for 5 seasons. It was a game show. Melissa Peterman from Reba, and it was a fun time. It was an adventure, and I ended up. They had a celebrity show, I remember, and I had to sing with Bobby Brown.
Wow!
Like My Prerogative, Bobby Brown.
Yeah, and doing here's a quarter. Call someone who cares.
He did not.
And I'm like, here's a quarter. Call someone who cares. He's supposed to go call someone, and he just here's a quarter. And he'd repeat what I'm like. It's a wonder. No wonder I'm exhausted.
Yeah, way to parrot the song. But you also, one of my favorite stories is you ended up on a reality TV show.
Oh God!
Come on, Bobby. Let's relive those moments.
Well, this was a time I was out there, and I was doing a songwriter show, and there's this show, and I didn't know about this show, but it was called the Bad Girls Club.
Yes.
Wow.
And there
something
was,
you would watch.
There was
of course.
It was on the Oxygen Network. And anyway, this female vocalist called and said, "Oh, I see. We need a Nashville songwriter. We see that you're going to be out here doing a show, and we're filming an episode. We don't have I think she said, we don't have a name for the show yet, but said, we just want to show me riding with someone from Nashville.
Yeah.
Can we come out to where you're staying?" And they did, and there were several other girls, and
what did they do?
I had no idea that there was they were creating this drama.
Yeah.
And then the show comes on, and it's called When the Walls Come Tumbling Down.
The title of the episode
they named it after you?
When
and
the walls come tumbling down.
I was writing with this.
Oh my God.
I was writing with this one girl, and it was like 2 or 3 were listening to what we had done, and one says, "Oh, I write songs or write poems." I said, "Oh, you do?" And they literally created pull from that, and then had them talking outside. Well, she's stealing her thunder, and it just went into they got in an argument at the house, and I had no idea. I was like, "Oh,
when the walls come tumbling down." So,
yes.
I'm glad it wasn't on CBS or NBC or.
I'm 100% when I get home looking this up.
Yes.
Well, it's out there.
Dude, do you remember that time we were in South Dakota for that Songwriters Festival?
Oh, God. That hasn't been that 7 or 8 years ago, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Deadwood.
The Deadwood Songwriters Festival.
I want to go to Deadwood.
It was amazing. We had such a blast. But I remember one night, Bobby and I are like, hey, let's go hit the town. Like, which is like as big as Demumbrian, like from the roundabout to the interstate.
Yeah.
And we go all these different places. I think we were doing a tequila shot in each place. And we stumbled upon like the weirdest guy. Do you remember this guy?
Yeah.
We were sitting at the bar and he just comes up and starts talking to us and just starts sharing his whole life story. And me and Bobby we keep looking at each other like, is this really happening? And this guy was like, he said he was like Navy SEAL or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like, hey man, I think I'm coming to Nashville in like 6 months and blah, blah, blah. But he's like, if there's anything I can do for you, you let me know. Like if you need someone taken out, I got you. And we were like,
yeah, he said that.
We were like, what? And then he's like, and he told us his name. His name was like Mike something, but he wouldn't tell us his last name. He said, my name's Mike N. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he goes, give me your phone. He put his name and number Mike N in my phone.
In your phone? Is it still in there?
I don't know.
Please.
I might have deleted it because I thought about that a while back and was like, I don't need this guy's phone number.
You don't need to be connected.
But I
with
don't remember if that was his name.
Mike
but it
N
was,
has
it
the
was
same
something
phone
like
number.
that.
I remember Old Dominion were just getting started then. They'd had maybe a couple of singles out.
I think they were on their first or second single, and I remember I went and saw the Mount Rushmore with them. They went and got their own private tour, but I wanted to go, and they're like,
Did you say the Mount Rushmore?
What is it? The
I
Mount
wanna see
Rushmore
Mount
Monument?
But it's the
Nobody
Mount
says
Rushmore.
the Mount Rushmore.
But it's not like these little. Let me ask you something.
It's
Was
not
that
the Ohio State University.
Was it what you thought it would be?
I don't know. It was really surreal because, like, you go up there and you're on this little observation deck and you're looking at it, and it's like, oh, okay.
But I thought it was going to be so big. I thought it was just going to
I guess that thing's pretty far away. I guess they don't want you getting too close to it. But, like, it was cool to see.
Oh, no, I'm glad I could. I've been to Mount
But I
Rushmore.
guess
I've never seen it.
I think if you were standing, like, at the bottom of it and looking up at it, it would probably be something. But I guess you are pretty far away from it when you're.
It's kind of like my
observation
ego.
deck. Yes. It's a lot bigger than it looks.
A lot like my ego.
Yeah.
I just remember the songwriter that writes here, Will Nance. He was there too, and we were like, "Man, we're out here this close to the Mount Rushmore. I'd hate not to see it." And then they found a guy who had a van and took us, and he was like, "Well, I'm taking my sister too, if you don't mind." And
Jesus.
And we ended up, they were like, "Hey, just go have fun." And I didn't have any cash on me, and Will didn't either. And he came back and he says, "All right." And I'm like, "Huh?" And Will ran. and I'm like, he said, "I need my money." I'm like, "I don't have any money."
Bro, you got ATM?
Yeah.
What'd you do? What happened?
Nothing.
Well,
You just walked away?
Yeah, because he was like wanting a tip, and
Yeah.
I didn't have.
Was he mad?
Yeah, but I mean, he took his sister on a family. It was like their little family time. And
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And I was told, well, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he was just trying to, bamboozle you out of some money.
But that's what I always think about when I think of Mount Rushmore.
Stiffing the tour guide.
Which I'm not one to do that, but I didn't,
We all.
He was acting like, I'm just happy to be with you guys and you could come along with us. That's
What an act.
Yeah, exactly. It was an
suckered
act.
you in, South Dakotians.
Is that what they are?
I don't know.
South Dakotans.
South Dakota.
I would have said Codians.
I'm pretty smart, and I think that might.
I mean, that's what
Yeah.
Alabama would say.
Alabamian,
Alabamian?
Kentuckian
Yeah.
is for sure.
South
Tennessean,
Dakotans.
Tennessean?
South
Sounds right to
Tennessean,
me.
Tennessee,
That hurts to
Mississippians.
say.
Mississippians
Yeah.
sounds awful too. Arkansasans.
Let's see, how would you do Arkansasians?
Arkansasians?
Arkansasians. Ew.
Why is it Arkansas and Kansas? Why is it not Kansas?
Arkansas.
Yeah, or Arkansas. What is this tomfoolery that they've done to us?
It's called the English language. It's the best.
Yeah,
It's so fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. English, we screw everything. Americans screw everything up.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah. And you realize that, like, my daughter's 6 and she's learning to read.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's asking, like, why is this, that, and that? And I'm like, I always say it's the English language. It's just messed up.
Because that's the way Jesus invented it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we use feet when nobody else does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Inches.
We don't like the metric.
No. No. Why?
We ain't about that life.
Yeah, we use Fahrenheit. I went to Australia and I had no clue what temperature it was. I didn't have
It's
my
18 degrees outside.
I tried
Sure
the
it is.
3 and 3 over 33 over 9 or whatever it is. I don't know. That stupid equation I can't remember because it's useless in my life because I have a phone. Yeah, Celsius. It's going to be 25 today. Like, what does that mean?
Bobby, have you ever been starstruck by anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Who would that be?
Andy Griffith.
Whoa.
Yeah, there was a lady, Carol Lee Cooper. She used to be a background singer on the Opry for years, and she had a talk show on WSM. And every now and her husband would set up the equipment.
Yeah.
And sometimes when he couldn't go, I was working with Bill Anderson, and she just asked me, "Could you fill in?"
Yeah.
And Andy Griffith was in town. And he was staying down at Lowe's Vandy, and she asked, "Hey, could you set up the equipment this week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who's the guest?" Andy Griffith's in town.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie, I was really starstruck.
Dude, I would be too.
Did you get to talk to him?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but I watched the interview, and then we asked for a picture, and that's when you actually. Well, no, there were cell phones at this point, but for some reason, I'm like, no, we're going to make sure have a great picture today. And he was like, man, this is and it was a cheap camera. He said, I like this camera, just like Andy Taylor, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's a cool, neat camera, you know, just really nice,
Dude.
But yeah,
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
and then met Don Knotts, Barney Fife,
Barney.
in a lobby of a hotel in Burbank, and I just had to go speak to him. I said, I know you get this all the time, but I've just got to tell you, man, there have been times in my life when I've been really down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've turned on, your movies or the Griffith Show, and it's just made me feel better. And he actually acted like he really appreciated
I
that.
bet he
He's
did.
a good actor. Yeah.
Don.
But yeah, musically, though, there's just been a lot, there's still people. I mean, when you see somebody like a Johnny Cash, if that doesn't get you.
Did you meet Johnny?
I did. I interviewed him in person.
Oh, yeah.
Right here
in Alabama?
In Demumbrian. On Demumbrian.
On Demumbrian.
Yeah. Yeah, at the opening of Hank Jr.'s museum that he had back then.
What was in the Hank Jr. Museum?
He had all of his dad's suits and the car that he passed away in, which all of this is in Montgomery at the Hank Williams Museum now.
Okay.
And had, lyric sheets of his dad's and like boots and then stuff from his career, awards and suits and guitars and that was.
I remember when Johnny Cash died. They had an estate sale and sold off a lot of his stuff. Well, Mike Curb ended up buying a lot of that stuff because he was going to create his own Johnny Cash museum, which is they were going to put it in the old Curb building, the original where they all started next to the writer's house, And so they were, like a big oversight is they didn't make it ADA accessible.
Oh.
So they were never granted a permit by the city to open. So for many years, because they had renovated the whole building with the glass cases and stuff and had it set up to be a little museum. And this is before the Johnny Cash Museum opened up downtown. And so one day I just got curious. I was like, hey, I want to go in there and see all this. And it was really weird because sure, there were some cool things in there, but it'd be like if you died and someone just put all your shit in glass cases.
Yeah.
It was like there was a wall clock that hung in his house and just all these different little knick-knack stuff. And I was like, I don't know if people would be really that stoked to see about all this, but it was interesting. But eventually, I don't know what Mike did with all that stuff. If he ended up just probably donating it to the Johnny Cash whatever museum that exists now. But
that's wild.
It was interesting though. Never happened.
Put my shoes or something in a glass case.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It's
real weird if you think about it.
Just imagine putting all your stuff in glass cases.
Yeah.
The museum in Montgomery, the Hank Williams Museum, it's really a great museum.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's with the streets he actually Hank Sr. sold peanuts on those streets,
Yeah.
And make money for guitar lessons. So it's kind of cool that all that stuff's right there.
Yeah.
Where he started. But,
Seen his ghost lately?
No.
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 I haven't either.
Bobby doesn't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I've experienced some pretty crazy things. I remember doing a show. Tiffany Goss, who's a writer here, she's from Montgomery, and we did a show down at the place. It was called the Elite Cafe back in the day, and it was the last place Hank Sr. ever played in.
Wow.
And then he sang 4 songs, and then he left on that last ride. And she and I did a show there a few years ago, and that night there was a wine glass on a stool next to her, went flying through the air.
Way.
Oh, yeah, I saw it, and she, Tiffany, "Wah!" I mean, she was like, and then the sound kept going up, down, up, and the engineer was like literally pulling his hair out.
Wow.
And then I did a song, and it had an ending where I paused, and then my guitar literally, like somebody was playing it, and I jumped.
Stop
and people
it.
like right in front were like, their eyes got big because I didn't have my hands on the guitar. I mean, it was pretty crazy. I mean, there have been a lot of stories connected to that.
That's crazy.
That's some poltergeist shit right there, son.
I just, the
Carol
sound,
Ann and a TV.
sound engineers, and man, I just think he wanted to play tonight.
Wow.
I've been like, yeah, I'm never coming here again.
Shit. Pack up down there, man.
Right?
I've watched Ghostbusters. I know what to do. Proton pack.
Proton
Man.
Yeah. Containment area.
am the keymaster.
Are you the gatekeeper?
No.
How about you? I'm going to ask both of you. Have you been starstruck?
One time. It was when I got to meet Garth Brooks, which was kind of funny because,
Done it.
like, I always enjoyed Garth's music growing up, but I was never a super fan. But, I knew his songs. But I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the buildup of the moment, because he cut a song that Lee, Kyle, and Billy wrote called More Than a Memory. Before he released it, he invited us all into the studio to come hear it. And so walk in there and didn't really know what to expect. And he's just there in his street clothes. And he was just such a nice, just gracious, humble guy. He's like, he made a point to shake everyone's hand. And I'm literally like, this is 2007. I'm like 2 years into the job, like 23 or 4 years old when this is happening. And so, he was super nice, but then like, I don't know if it was just his energy, his presence, but I just remember I could feel my body shaking. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, because I've met tons of artists, tons of celebrities, not tons, but several, probably a lot more than the average person. And I've never had that experience with anyone else, because, being in this town, you're exposed to a lot of that. And so it's just kind of more common than it is for most folks. But I don't know what it was. Being around Garth, I was just like, wow, this is like had a loss of words. And I remember I was taking a picture of the group. My hands like shaking with the camera. I'm like, oh my God, this is so awkward and embarrassing.
How about you?
Man, I don't get starstruck by music people a whole lot because I know a lot of them. And I've been around this town a long time. Country people, I know just about everybody. Other genres, however, like heavy metal and rock, I grew up on when I was, 11-year-old David is listening to Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, Girls, Wild Side, Dr. Feelgood, all that stuff. That was my childhood. So I do Waiting for Wishes. It's the Kevin Carter, Jay DeMarcus thing where they have celebrity waiters come in. It's for Make-A-Wish Foundation. We raise money. We wait on the tables. But they always put me and Chad halfway to Hazard behind the bar for some reason. I don't know why this is. They must think we like to be...
Because you drink a lot.
Around the bar.
No.
I really did at the time. But the woman was like, so they give you your assignments beforehand. And she goes, okay, you boys are going to be with Vince tonight. And I'm like, well, Vince Young, maybe. I don't know, the quarterback. Titans used to be. Like, who, Vince? He's like, yeah, you're going to be with Vince Neil tonight. I'm like, whoa, what? Excuse me? So, dude, we walk into the Palm, and I just walk up to the bar and walk behind the bar, and this dude is like, he's standing there, and he comes over, and he's like, hey, I'm Vince. And I'm like, yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. And I am David. And he was just the nicest dude. But it was my childhood in front of me. Yeah. Like, this is home sweet home.
You know, that's the coolest
is the guy.
thing.
And that's what I grew up on. And the woman, the head of the thing, came over. She's like, okay, look, I need you to do something for me. I was like, you need to take Vince around the tables and have him, introduce him to the tables. And I'm like, fuck. Okay. And I'm like, hey, Vince, we got to go see tables, man. Me and you, buddy. Yeah. But it was the coolest thing.
See, I get it.
Hey, Vince, remember the time you were in that band? That was awesome.
Remember when Tommy Lee would spin around in his drum set? That was cool. Yeah. Remember when you wrote Home Sweet Home?
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, that's the coolest thing about this business.
Yeah.
I mean, more than an award or anything, to have those moments. I
agree.
I had a moment a few years ago. Willie Nelson recorded a song with of all people, Barbra Streisand. And I was and he was at the Bluebird Cafe.
This is Bobby Tomberlin in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, I had a song recorded by Willie Nelson and Barbra Streisand.
I don't mean it that lightly.
That was awesome.
No, it's just it doesn't even sound right.
It sounds amazing.
But I mean, again, you got to think I'm from a 2,500 population town, and I just wanted to get I just wanted to get one song recorded. I remember thinking, man, if I could just get one. And then, of course, you get one. But anyway, it was a thing that the NSAI, they were doing. They were presenting Willie with the first annual Chris Christopherson Award.
Wow.
So Chris was there, and then Mickey Raphael, Willie's harmonica player. I've known him for quite a while, but I didn't know Willie. And I mentioned the song to Mickey, and Mickey says, oh, man, come meet Willie. And we're right at the back door, and he says, oh, come on the bus and listen to it. And
nice.
I sat down at that little table where he's sitting across from me, had his computer, and he played it, and he looked at me so close in the eyes to observe my reaction. Then he had the biggest joint. And I know the listeners can't see it.
Well, it's about the circumference of a toilet paper roll, if I'm judging correctly.
And he took up and then handed it to
me. You did, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, you would.
And I'll be honest with you. That was one of those nights. I'm like, man.
I would smoke with Willie in front of my mom.
How high did you get?
I got very high.
Were you high as a dog whistle? So
high that Buddy Cannon, Willie's producer's wife, called to make sure I made it home. At that moment, this is going to sound crazy, but I really felt like I had a right. Yeah, right. Pardon the pun. He wrote that, of course. But
oh God!
But I really felt like I think I just made it. I really did. I mean, pardon the pun again, stayed high for quite a while.
I mean, if I would smoked with Willie, I would probably felt like I made it too. There was one time Lee went to go open up for Willie in Birmingham.
Oh, I remember that.
And this was a while back, but there was this off chance we were all going to get to go on the bus with Willie, and I was like, I don't even smoke, but I was like, I'm going to. If it's offered, this is happening. But unfortunately, Willie didn't have anybody on the bus that evening. But I was like, come on,
man. You just said about in front of your mom. That almost like I wanted to call my mom and say, Mom, and I'm like, well,
and I think my mom would be cool with it.
Isn't that funny? It's like if he does it, doesn't matter what he does.
No,
and that's what I heard about Hank Williams Sr. People from that time period. If other people had done some of those things, but poor Hank, bless his heart. He just, you just cannot be angry or upset about some of these people, like Willie.
Yeah.
But I know that to me has been cooler that's been the coolest thing. Just being, getting to meet people like that or work with people like that.
It's a bonus
because it goes back to that childhood. I mean, like you said, listening to that music and
that devil music.
Now you're right there with the guy. I mean, that is huge.
Yeah.
Used to be homies with little Jimmy Dickens.
Loved him.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of this came from working with Bill Anderson, being his sound engineer. We'd be out on the road with some of these other acts, and everybody would go to bed, and little Jimmy, I'm going to the bar. I'm like, well, I'll hang with you.
Yeah.
And it's...
What was he like to hang out with?
Oh my gosh, so wonderful. He was
wild?
So funny. He loved to drink his wine.
I've heard stories about that dude.
He smoked, cigarettes till he till he ended up in the hospital that Christmas. But his last year, he didn't drive out to the Opry House, and if I was in town, I would drive him out.
Really?
And it was like I'd pick him up, and man, he was just so wonderful. We'd be going down that interstate. My gosh, how fast were they going? Good Lord, look at them go. And he would listen to the radio, and what are they doing? Or he would love music, too. He'd say, oh, now that's a good song.
Okay.
And he wanted to go to the Music City Bar and Grill every Saturday before the Opry that's out there at Music Valley. Yeah. And he had a chair, and they had rhinestones, little Jimmy Dickens and rhinestones.
Nice.
Behind on the chair back.
That's awesome.
And then had his name, a plate, little Jimmy. Then he sat down in his place, and boy, people would come around, and he'd chat with anybody, and he just loved it. And
that's amazing.
He loved to go to the casinos. And
of course he did.
He loved his wine. And I mean, he didn't get wasted or anything, but I do remember one night, I'm not going to name who, brought some moonshine back.
Yeah.
After he had the wine, and he drank the moonshine.
Oh, yeah. Did he take it to the next level?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Big Jimmy Dickens.
But people loved him. I tell you what, you could go into an airport, young people, all age, and they just knew him. And, Brad Paisley used him in a lot of videos and those cameos.
Yeah.
And it was so wonderful to see a guy at that age, 94, that was still doing it. I mean, he played just a few days before he died.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And, all these rock and roll guys, if they were at the Opry or actors, they wanted to come meet him. And
that's awesome.
He's icon.
I remember Kevin Bacon was there one night and came backstage and took a picture, and Jimmy's like, now who was that?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It was great. And I remember too, I remember the last ride, he looked at me and he said, out to the Opry House, he said, you don't know about missing someone until you've missed them, like I've missed Hank Williams. He said, I miss him more. He said, I miss him more today than I did in 1953.
Holy shit, that's amazing. That's one of the heaviest, coolest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Wow.
And Hank Jr., that was the first concert I ever went to, was Hank Jr.
Yeah. Was it?
It was his second show after the mountain fall. And the stage was set up on the ground where his dad was born.
Oh,
the house had been torn down years ago. But he came out there, and, this was the new Hank.
Yeah.
With the beard. And, he was still very skinny from the fall. But he said, well, ain't the same Bo Cephas, and went into Sweet Home Alabama Volume 10 or 11.
11.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And then his music introduced me to the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner. And I started doing research. Oh, Greg Allman. Oh, Leonard Skinner. Because, you're in a small town where it's just country music played, which I love.
Yep.
But then that led me to find all this other great music, blues music.
Yeah.
He would record these things with Lightning Hopkins. And,
oh my gosh, that is so cool, dude.
And that's how I learned about those people. Isn't that funny? A country artist.
Yeah.
But you learn about all these people from a country.
It's all intertwined, Bobby.
It is.
It's all one big family.
It really is.
We just say things a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think about, like here at this building, do you ever just look out at RCA Studio B and think that's kind of where it all started? I mean, your office is... You're basically sitting across the street from the second major studio ever built.
I see it just about every day, and especially the bus that unloads all the tourists. And it is quite the.
We're working on these grounds that Elvis Presley recorded. He recorded more songs in that building, and Mike Herb owns that building.
Yeah.
But all the other, Dolly Parton, I Will Always Love You, and Jolene recorded on the same day there.
Yep, it's wild. It really is.
And I don't think about it a lot of days, but every now and then.
You forget what's happening
every now and then.
Yeah.
The Judds, they did their audition in the big RCA building.
Yeah.
Right there. And
crazy.
It is crazy. And here we are. And it's again, there's no other word for it but crazy. And it's cool to talk about it sometimes, just
of course.
To realize how special it is to be here.
I always tell everybody you're the great historian of Music Row because you know so much.
I don't try to be, though.
But you do. I mean, I think you have probably a love of history.
Well, I love it.
And you've been around it your whole life. And
you need to continue doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I do love it. Yeah. I mean, I really do. I love the history, and I still love to. But like I said earlier, it's exciting to meet a brand new act.
Yeah.
It's just writing their first songs. That's huge too. But it is important to share it, I think.
Well, man, we love you.
Well,
just know that.
Love you guys too, and this has been great.
Well, glad to have you, and people can find you on socials and stuff too. Yeah,
yeah.
What is it? Bobby Tomberlin?
Just Bobby Tomberlin.
Just Bobby Tomberlin.
Yeah,
the man with two names.
Yeah,
I don't know. That made no sense.
Nope.
No, but I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, man, and thank you for what you've brought to my life, Colt's life.
Oh, yeah.
For the generosity of your talent.
Well, 19 years, you said 19, right? That's a long time. That's a lot of history.
Yeah.
Boy, have we seen a lot.
Seen a lot of change in 19 years, and
a lot of good.
It's changing faster than ever. Yeah.
But it's just so good to be here. And anyway.
Have you ever seen A Wheel of Shame, though?
A Wheel of Shame?
A Wheel of Shame.
Uh-oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. Do you?
I have.
Do you? Oh.
I have heard this before. Yeah.
Well, now you get to touch it. You get to spin it, Bobby.
Bobby's no stranger to the shame.
He is no Waffle House.
This isn't a Waffle House song.
Yeah, really. All right.
It's all in code.
Yeah, you're not going to know what anything means. And what did you get?
Dragon's Breath.
Yeah!
Let's go.
What the Dragon's Breath is.
In a Looking Back, Texas.
I hope you enjoy, yes, the smelling salts. I hope you enjoy spicy stuff.
I'm in a spicy mood today.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing. Yeah. Do you like our Wheel of Shame?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good to have something that
looks like that.
Could mean many things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And could change your life.
It could change your life. This right here, it's going to change my tomorrow morning.
Bobby, can you have any kind of alcohol?
Oh, my Lord.
Can you have any alcohol?
No.
Huh?
With me?
Yeah. Can you drink it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I thought he was asking me that. I mean, one of the writers here. Oh, yeah.
So many people have gotten sober lately. I'm not trying to offend anybody.
Here's in my guitar case.
Sober is the new drunk. I mean, it is. Like, I'm sober. Rusty Kelly was in here the other day. He's sober.
No.
Matt Alderman's sober again, guys. He told me this morning. Yeah. So it's good.
No, it is a good thing. I just gotten so out of shape at the end of the year, so I've been going back to the gym and
good for you.
Eating better and feeling better.
Good
too.
It's interesting when you take care of yourself how much better you feel. Oh,
I know. Go figure. Why is it so hard to stop and do that, though?
Why is it so hard not to eat like cake and blizzards and stuff, you know?
Blizzards.
Well,
I don't know, David. Why don't you tell us all about it?
I need to go to Dairy Queen. There's nothing in this life like an Oreo blizzard. There really isn't.
So, in honor of having the illustrious Tequila Tomberlin in with us, I mixed a little tequila in with our hot sauce.
Oh, I just get straight hot sauce because I'm a glutton for punishment.
So, do you have any special cheers or any kind of thing you want to say?
I say cheers to Curb Word Publishing, and just what an amazing history. Curb Records celebrating 60, right?
Yeah, this is Curb's 60th year in the business.
I mean, okay, think about it. I mean, for the listeners who may not know it, Curb Records, the Righteous Brothers, Debbie Boone, You Light Up My Life, Family Tradition, Hank Williams Jr., The Judds, Mama He's Crazy, The Four Seasons, Oh What a Night,
not to
Sean
mention
Cassidy,
Hank Jr. and breaking the careers of McGraw and Leanne Rimes.
Yeah, exactly. He was going to go up to Wynonna's solo career.
And David's favorite, Steve Holy.
Yeah,
love Steve.
Lee Brice,
Dylan Scott. We've had some good ones.
Jody
here.
Messina.
Yeah, we got our boy Kelsey Hart on the rise.
Right.
We got some new hot up and comers.
I remember Hal Ketchum.
Oh,
I mean, we really
just talked about Hal the
could
other
go
day.
on and on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, an amazing 60-year history that's still rocking.
Yeah, man.
I hope it's here for 60 more.
Absolutely, and I hope we're here for so much of it.
Absolutely. Salute.
Cheers, boys.
Oh, God.
That's hot.
Well,
Just remember, that was your idea.
there was so much. It was so much.
Hey, stop loving her today.
Oh, you got one more.
Do you feel like being a glutton for punishment, Bob?
One more, Bobby.
All right. You ever done smelling salt? Bobby.
Yeah. How you feeling, man?
I just looked over at Bob like he was
That is
about to hurl.
no act.
Oh. It's so bad.
We just ruined Bobby's day.
We're about to make it a lot better.
Bobby, breathe, Bobby.
I feel it.
Man, I didn't get water for Bobby today. I feel bad.
There's so, well,
Water ain't going to help that. If you put water in my mouth right now, there'd be the biggest smoke coming.
Steam. All right. So you have one more hurdle before you can leave the Twangtown podcast. He's sweating.
I'm not kidding.
I'm sweating too, Bob.
All right. So smelling salts.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. Channel your inner tequila time. Yeah, put that.
Whoa.
All right. So what you're going to do is
My eyes are falling out.
you ain't had nothing yet.
Don't say that.
So what you're going to want to
Please
do.
don't say that.
Okay, Bobby, this is going to be the best of your life.
Thank you.
What you're going to want to do is hold a bottle right here about chest high. And then you're just going to. Okay?
What?
Sniff real hard.
Wait a minute. Right here?
Yeah, you're going to hold the bottle. I'm going to take the lid off. And you're going to hold it right here and go.
That's it. Don't get any closer.
I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
We've all
No,
done it.
you're telling me, though.
We've all
I
done
guess
it. A lot of people have done it. David and I have done it multiple times.
Yeah.
You know what? Can it be any worse?
No.
Yeah, it could. Oh, my
Right, hold it right here.
God.
Just do
I
it.
can't believe I'm doing this.
And then give it a big sniff. Big sniff. You're not sniffing.
Oh, wait a minute.
Lift it up higher. Put it like under your like out from your chin.
Yeah, go.
Oh, my gosh. I sure hope that cleans out some stuff. Oh, man. Now, you know what?
That may have been the best reaction of all time.
I don't think I have ever. Right?
What does it smell like?
There's no words for that. I can't even pronounce a word.
It's what
And
it's one
listeners,
of,
I'm not kidding. This is not an act. I mean, I can't even get a sentence out.
right?
I mean, like, okay, if I was on the radio right now, the weather forecast is mostly sunny today with a high of 42.
Oh God.
I mean, the high of, see, I can't even get the high of 72.
72.
That is really bad.
Now you're welcome. Welcome to the
Where
Twang
do
Down
you
podcast.
even find that?
I don't know.
Internet.
Hell.
What's the lowest your voice can go down to?
Well, now it may go pretty.
Before all that,
maybe
you
not
probably-
far. Low.
Oh my gosh, that's so much bass. Turn your bass up, people.
I can't.
Come on, give us
42 degrees tonight. But it's about 102 right now in here.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That was awesome.
Well,
Really, that's got to be a benefit for your health, right?
it has to do something.
It's going to clear out all kinds of stuff.
You just gave
I won't
yourself-
have any allergy issues
No.
for 10 years.
No, you just gave
No.
yourself 10 more years of life.
Yeah. Dude, thank you for coming in here and
being
being
a
a good
great
sport.
sport.
Really,
Yeah,
I'm crying.
you were a good sport.
Happy tears.
Colt, tell them where they can find us.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Twang
Trying to get
Down.
my wits here. Yes, we are available on all streaming platforms. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
Twink,
rate,
podcast,
like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. It helps out the pod. Let's go, people.
Yep. Thank you, Bobby. Love y'all.
Bobby's hurting. Call 911.
Y'all have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.